May 12, 2025 to order. Will the secretary please call roll?
Commissioner Benninger,
Present.
Commissioner Escamilla, Commissioner Leo,
Here.
Commissioner Pham,
Here.
Commissioner Wu,
Here.
Vice Chair Ramos, Chair Oliva.
Here.
Chair quorum has been reached at 5:34.
Will everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Before we begin, I would like to remind my fellow commissioners to turn your microphones on when speaking and off when not speaking. And when speaking, please place the microphones about 4 inches away from you. Thank you. Members of the public may attend Planning Commission meetings in person or virtually via Zoom. I now invite the Commission Secretary to describe the way the public can access and participate in this meeting.
This meeting is being live streamed via our portal at www.sana-ana.primegov.com/public/portal and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/City of Santa Ana videos. If you would like to provide public comment, you may do so in the following ways. Join the meeting via Zoom. When the item you wish to comment on is being discussed, please enter the meeting ID number 898-4977-8902. Select the hand icon to indicate that you would like to speak. Once called upon, remember to unmute yourself and state your name for the record. You can also join the meeting by calling 669-900-6833. Enter meeting ID number 8984977-8902. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, press star 9 to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the last 3 digits of your phone number. After you're called upon, you may press star 6 to unmute yourself. For those who are attending this meeting in person and would like to provide public comment, please fill out the request to speak form and turn it into the recording secretary. All speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. I will alert you when your time is up.
Moving on to public comments on non-agenda or non-public hearing items. Secretary, does anyone wish to speak?
If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please select the hand icon to let us know you would like to comment. If you're calling in and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please dial star 9 and then star 6 to unmute yourself. I will wait for a few seconds. Chair, we do not have any speakers.
Thank you. I would also like to make note that Vice Chair Ramos has joined us at 5:36 p.m. Moving on to the consent calendar.
I'd like to move item A and B of the consent calendar.
I have a motion to move item A, minutes from April 28, 2025, and item B, excused absences. Is there a second?
I second that.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Wu and a second from Commissioner Benninger. Secretary, please call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla, Commissioner Leo,
Aye.
Commissioner Pham,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ramos,
Aye.
Chair Oliva.
Aye.
Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Escamilla absent.
That concludes the consent calendar items. Moving on to the public hearing. I will now review the process for the public hearing so that everyone knows what to expect. Staff will provide a presentation and answer questions from the commission. Then the public hearing will be open. The applicant will be given the opportunity to speak, limited to 15 minutes. Members of the public will be given the opportunity to comment, limited to 3 minutes. The applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to comments made by the public, limited to 5 minutes. Then the public hearing will be closed. Discussion will return to the commission with formal action taken to approve, deny, or continue review of the application. Please consider the following suggestions when organizing your comments. Please state your name and address, strictly voluntary. State whether you support, oppose, or are neutral to the proposal. State your statement should include all pertinent facts within your knowledge. Please note, decisions on these matters are final unless appealed within 10 days by any interested individual or party. Recommendations on this item will be forwarded to the City Council at a later date for final determination. This is the time and place for appeal of revocation of land use certificate number
Chair Oliva,
2000. Yes.
can we note that there is a Spanish interpreter in case
Oh,
anybody
yeah.
requires?
Of course. There is Spanish interpretation available for those who may need it. Si necesita asistencia oh my God, con intérpretes, tenemos aparatos. Si se puede acercar con la secretaria, le podemos dar más información. Gracias. This is the time and place for appeal of revocation of land use certificate number 2003-03 for the property located at 2641 West Edinger Avenue, located within the Community Commercial Zoning District. This item was continued from April 28, 2025, and staff is recommending that this item be continued for 60 days. Is there a motion to continue this item for 60 days?
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Leo and a second from Commissioner Wu. Secretary, please call for a roll call vote.
Also, for the record, Commissioner Escamilla is now present at 5:40. Commissioner Benninger?
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Aye.
Commissioner Leo? Commissioner Pham?
Aye.
Commissioner Wu?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ramos?
Aye.
Chair Oliva?
Aye.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
This is the time and place for modification of conditional use permit number 2015-19 for the property located at 601 East Santa Ana Boulevard, located within the Transit Zoning Code zoning district. Before we begin, do any commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item? Seeing none, the case manager, Christian Santana, will provide a brief presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair and fellow commissioners. The following presentation is a conditional use permit number 2015-19 MOD-1. It's a request to allow an upgrade from a Type 41 beer and wine ABC license to a Type 47 beer, wine, and distilled spirits ABC license, as well as to expand operation to neighboring suites. Staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving CUP 2015-19-MOD-1 as conditioned. The site is located within the Urban Neighborhood 30 land use designation of the general plan, and it's located within SD 84, the Transit Zoning Code, under the subzone of Urban Neighborhood 2. The surrounding land uses toward the north and east are single-family residential. The south is a mixed-use development, and towards the west is a religious facility. The lot is approximately 0.37 acres, and the business will occupy 1,394 square feet of floor area, as well as 1,696 square feet of outdoor dining area. The site was originally constructed in 1924 with 2 commercial buildings and was later improved with a duplex and a residential dwelling unit. In 2013, the site underwent comprehensive remodel and renovations, included interior and exterior updates to a 2,000 square foot commercial building, a 1,065 square foot 2-story live work studio, as well as a 1,150 square foot duplex. The property also underwent the installation of 3 shipping containers to operate as outdoor kiosks. In 2014, the shipping containers were converted into 2 commercial structures for a kitchen and a bar use, consisting of 536 square feet and 1,594 square feet of actual outdoor dining areas. On January 25th, 2016, the Planning Commission approved conditional use permit number 2015-19 to allow an ABC Type 41 license for beer and wine for on-site sales, alcohol sales. In 2016, the original applicant, Knife and Glass, also known as Dear Lacey, commenced operation, and in 2019, Benchmark was issued a CFO for the operation of an eating establishment at this location. Benchmark is comprised of 3 shipping containers converted into 2 structures, 536 square feet and 1,594 square feet of outdoor dining areas. The expansion into the adjacent Suite 605 East Santa Ana Boulevard will add an additional 858 square feet to the restaurants for a total combined commercial space of 2,988 square feet. The overall project includes tenant improvements to 605 East Santa Ana Boulevard and the maintenance of the existing drop tiling landscaping that exists on site. Hours of operation are proposed Monday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Current operating hours are from 11:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday and 11:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sundays. At this moment, no live entertainment is proposed and no after-hours operations are being requested. Here is a sites photo of the property. This is taken from Santa Ana Boulevard, and in this location here where the cursor is located, that's 605 East Santa Ana Boulevard. That's where the proposed expansion would take place. Here is a site plan of the property, and then here under the hatch area, that is 605 East Santa Ana Boulevard, the proposed area of expansion. For the floor plan, here are the areas where the applicant proposes to locate alcohol storage. I would like to note that the applicant is proposing to expand alcohol storage by 48 square feet for a total of 155 square feet of storage area. This is within the 5% limit of the gross floor area for both of the units for alcohol storage. Additionally speaking, for access, the applicant is proposing to install a walkway or a door here, combining the both units. Staff has determined that the project will not be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The project is consistent with the general
Christian,
plan.
I'm so sorry. Can we pause really quickly? Vice Chair Ramos might live within the 1,000 feet of the property. Is there any way we can check that right now?
Yeah, I'm going to excuse myself to the back right now, just until we get
Thank you,
that
Vice
figured out.
Chair. While you excuse yourself, we'll be checking the maps just to make sure she's either within or without, and we'll mention that to the commission. One
Thank
second.
you.
So just to be clear, she's stepping out because of a potential conflict of interest, but we are checking to see if she could return.
Correct. Thank you.
Vice Chair Ramos is within the conflict of interest radius.
We'll call a recess for 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll return. We called a recess. Can we start the meeting again?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll restart the meeting now. Thank you.
Can I go ahead and? Thank you, Chair. I'm going to, on behalf of the Commissioner, just further reiterate that she's going to not participate in this item based on a potential conflict of interest based on her primary residence being between 500 and 1,000 feet of this item. So she will not be participating. You can go ahead and continue.
Thank you for the clarity.
Thank you. So the proposed project, staff has determined that the project will not be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The project is consistent with the general plan and is located within SD 84, the transit zoning code, which envisions for a walkable mixed-use neighborhood in close proximity to a mix of different uses like commerce, workplaces, residential dwelling units, as well as civic buildings. As a locally established eating establishment, Benchmark will provides a unique outdoor dining experience with ancillary services to customers by offering a variety of alcoholic beverages with meals. Approval of this CUP modification would allow Benchmark to remain economically viable and to compete with nearby full-service establishments offering similar types of services. The site is not located within immediate proximity to parks, playgrounds, or schools, and the existing site conditions minimize potential nuisance impacts to surrounding uses. The police department has reviewed the ABC CUP request and has no concerns with the operations applicable to on-premise ABC licenses, in which will mitigate any potential impacts to the surrounding community. Conditions of approval have also been, excuse me. Conditions of approval have also been included to ensure that there are no detrimental community impacts with the issuance of a Type 47 ABC license. This includes requiring staff review after 6 months of the issuance of a Type 47 ABC license to ensure that there is no consistent increase in the number of service calls or police reports. Installation of signage in the entrance and exit areas that limits alcohol consumption to only the leased premises of the business. And there's also an additional condition that limits the leasing of the site for meetings, parties, ceremonious gatherings, and or other similar types of events as a primary use. Specifically for this condition, it's listed as condition number 5 in Exhibit A. Upon further review, to clarify the intent of this condition, staff will update the condition to include the word primary use. This would allow the applicant to perform these functions solely as an ancillary use, similar to how many other restaurants in the SD 84 operates. So for condition number 5, we'll be modifying that to include it as to not allow it as a primary use, just an ancillary use. Additionally, the remaining conditions of approval, property maintenance agreements, and standards within the Santa Ana Municipal Code will address any potential negative impacts Additionally, pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and the CEQA guidelines, the project is exempt from further review pursuant to Section 15301, Class 1, Existing Facilities. Environmental review number 2015-109 will be filed for this project. Additionally, there are no physical impacts associated with this project. With that said, staff is recommending adoption of a resolution approving conditional use permit number 2015-19-MOD-1 as conditioned. The applicant is also here to answer any further questions, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you. Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger.
Yes, on this Type 47 license, by the census code, how many are allowed in this area?
Yes, so there are 8 allowed per ABC. After 8, it's deemed as an undue concentration, and there's only 6 existing within the same census tract. And of those, 5 are type 41s, and there's 1 type 58.
Okay. Do we require any parking?
Additional parking?
Yes, I didn't see any parking. I drove by the site on Saturday, I didn't see any parking. Is there municipal codes that require parking for establishment like this?
There is parking designated for bench park in the rear of the site. Additionally speaking, there's additional provisions within state's law that prohibits parking within high transit areas, and this would be one of those locations as well. And so even if we wanted to include parking as it's essentially the state supersedes that requirement for parking.
Because when I went by on Saturday, I could see it as with the outdoor patio being very full, which is great. But it really looked to me, it's like a walk-in restaurant and walk up to. And now you're going to add additional capacity, and they'll be able to serve more people, which is great. But the problem is, where are they going to park if they want to come to this location? That's what my concern is. On it. So I gather from what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is no parking. It's not required by state law for parking, correct?
There is parking in the rear that's designated just for benchmark. And also the site, it's not a change of use. There is an existing restaurant. 605 was previously a eating establishment. And so even if the city were to require on-site parking compliance, there's additional provisions within state law, AB 2097, that would also be applicable in this case, because it is within one of those higher transit corridors.
Were they required to notify the neighbors of this proposed change?
The change for what? The change?
Well, they're changing hours and also adding still spirits to their menu. That's what they're requesting.
Yeah, so the notices were sent out to within 1,000 feet of the property, and so the neighbors were notified, as well as the French Park Neighborhood Association, as well as the Lacey the Lacey Neighborhood Association as well.
Very good, thank you.
Commissioner Scamilla.
Yeah, just wondering, so we were just given some comments over from Edouin Greenleaf, so just trying to read through them. I'm wondering if staff can respond to them. I don't know if you have this as well. Basically, there's a question around some potential modifications to the resolution. First one being, let's see, a modification to the language on section 1 #C. And so just a little item there. And then I think the one that's a little bit more pertinent for the discussion point is not allowing any sort of private reservations of the site as one of the conditions. So I'm just wondering if you can respond to that item specifically.
Yeah, so those comments were provided by Dwayne is actually the owner of Benchmark. And so he requested some clarification on those conditions. I spoke with Dwayne earlier today, and the first comments is not really much of a concern. 605 will be deactivated as part of the tenant improvement process, and so that address will be merged with 601. So there's not really an issue there. For the second concern, we took a little bit of a deeper dive in terms of the review for the condition number 5, and in order to satisfy code of compliance and to revise the condition to meet more closely staff's original intent, was to include that extra phrase as a primary use. So as a primary use, banquet facilities or a use that would allow the applicant to rent out the sites exclusively for a group would not be allowed, but however, they are allowed to lease out as an ancillary use. So if a nonprofit or a birthday party wanted to rent out the sites, one night a week or one night on any given week, they would be allowed to do so, similar to how other restaurants in the SD84 also operate, so long as it's an ancillary use, not a primary use.
Okay, so in theory, we can still get a full reservation going on for a specific user, and they'll be able to operate fairly normally to what their existing practice already is?
That's correct. So the distinction would be banquet facility versus like someone wanting to have a private party. So the intent was to not allow a banquet facility, but that the way the original condition was crafted left some ambiguity, which led to this question. And then Christian read into the record how staff would work with the applicant to make that clarification.
Cool, thank you.
Commissioner Leo.
No questions.
Commissioner Pham.
Just for clarification, I know that the staff report didn't mention any feedback from the neighbors about the eating establishment operating till 10 p.m. I know that because most of the activities currently is outdoors. There's been no feedback from the neighborhood. Is that correct?
No feedback.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Wu.
I couldn't hear very well, so I may ask to repeat. So the answer to both this item 1 and 2 is that staff will work with them.
Yes, item 1 is essentially resolved with the building tenant improvement process.
And to answer Commissioner Pham's question about opening until 10, are they open until 10 on Sunday, too?
So their presence,
Is 8, are they going to open until 10 on Sunday?
it looks like the request is for 10 p.m. until Sunday.
Okay. Nice to know.
The commissioners asked the questions that I had, so I have no questions for staff. The public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak on the matter? Please approach the microphone.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners and City staff. My name is Jeff Kaufman. I'm the architect for the project. And I don't really have anything to add. Christian's done an exemplary job of presenting our project to you. We've read the conditions and we're in agreement with them. So if you have any questions for us, we'll be happy to answer them. I'm here, the owner's here, but nothing to add at this time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Does the commission have any questions? Commissioner Benninger, we'll go in order.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Just confirming that the, response from staff dealt with item number 2 adequately for the applicant, so that there is kind of the flexibility. So I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's exactly what we're looking for, just a teeny bit. We're not trying to make it into a event venue, yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Commissioner Leo.
I just want to thank the applicant for continued investment in Santa Ana.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Commissioner Pham.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wu.
How close to 10 o'clock will you have last call? Well, not very many restaurants stay open till 9, and sometimes you don't make up your mind to go out.
Right. When you say last call for drink or for eat, basically when the restaurant's open, you can get food or you can get drink.
Good to know, thank you.
No questions for me.
Okay.
Recording secretary, have we received any written communication, or is there a member of the public that would like to comment on this item? You can take a seat. We'll call you up if there's anything. Thank you.
I didn't know, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I didn't know where these were.
No. Chair, we have received a total of 1 email in the form of public comment for this item before the 3:30 PM deadline, which has been distributed to the commission and posted online. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon to indicate that you would like to speak. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial *9 and then *6 to unmute yourself. I will wait for a few seconds. Lisandro Orozco on Zoom, can you please unmute yourself?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Lisandro Orozco. I live in French Park, and I just wanted to call in and voice my support for this expansion. His business is one of our great amenities, and one of the cool parts of living in this part of Santa Ana is to have a business that we can just walk to within the neighborhood and not have to get in a car and drive. His business, along with a few of the other businesses like Hidden House or some of the other stuff closer to the train station, like 6100 Bakery, those are some of the cool things that we have in Santa Ana that other cities can't replicate, having this old walkable part of the city that doesn't have parking like your traditional city would, but I think it's an amenity that it's in a walkable neighborhood and not surrounded by a large parking lot. So that's it. Just wanted to voice my support. I'm really glad that he's staying in business, that he's able to expand, and I hope he continues to operate in the business for the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Thank you.
There isn't any additional speakers.
With that, the public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve this matter?
Yep, Chair, would like to make the motion to approve as staff recommends.
I second that.
Second, yeah.
I have a motion from Commissioner Escamilla and a second from Commissioner Wu. Secretary, please call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo,
Aye.
Commissioner Pham,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ramos, Chair Oliva.
Aye.
Motion approved by majority vote with Vice Chair Ramos abstaining.
This is the time and place for conditional use permit number 2025-08 for the property located at 800 West 17th Street, located within the Community Commercial Zoning District. Before we begin, do any commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item? Seeing none, case planner Christian Santana will provide a brief presentation.
Thank you, Chair. The next item is a request for an approval of an ABC license upgrade from a Type 41 beer and wine license to a Type 47 beer, wine, and distilled spirits license. The staff's recommendation is to adopt Resolution CUP 2025-8 as conditioned. The general plan designates 800 West 17th Street as general commercial, and the location is within the community commercial or the C1 zoning district. Surrounding land uses to the north are retail and medical office uses. To the east lay retail, service, and medical office uses. Towards the west is another eating establishment, and towards the south are multifamily residential properties. The lot is approximately 0.75 acres, and the leased area of the business is 5,390 square feet. The subject site was developed in 1979 with a 5,390 square foot standalone restaurant, which was previously occupied by Sizzler. In 2003, the Planning Commission approved CUP 2003-39 to allow for a Type 41 license for on-site consumption of beer and wine alcohol. From 2006 through 2007, the property underwent interior renovations and improvements to accommodate Costa Azul. In 2007, Costa Azul was issued a certificate of occupancy for operation of an eating establishments with a Type 41 beer and wine license. Costa Azul occupies the 5,390 square foot building, which can accommodate for 167 patrons. Existing hours of operation are Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. up to midnight. No changes are proposed at this time. The applicant is requesting to upgrade to an existing beer and wine license, Type 41, to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits, Type 47, for on-site consumption. All alcoholic beverages will be stored and displayed at a service station and within a storage area of the kitchen. The restaurant will contain an overall alcohol storage area of 22 square feet, which is less than 5% of the gross floor area of the tenant space. Here are some site photos of the property. And here's a site plan of the sites. And this area here is where the main entrance is for Costa Azul. Here's a floor plan, and then this area is where the proposed alcohol storage would be located. Upon review of the applicant's request of approval of CUP 2025-8, will allow Costa Azul to upgrade its license of Type 41 license to a Type 47 license, enabling the sale of distilled spirits alongside beer and wine for on-premise consumption. The project will not be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The project will provide additional services to the community, promote economic development, growth, and contribute to the city's physical stability. The subject site is not located within an immediate proximity to playgrounds, schools, or religious institutions. The existing building is situated along 17th Street, maintaining a 100-foot buffer from residential units with a parking area and a public alley providing additional separation. The project is consistent with the general plan, land use designation of general commercial, and the project supports several goals discussing complete communities, job retention, compatibility of uses, diverse economic base, and business-friendly environments found in the land use and economic prosperity elements. Pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and the CEQA guidelines, the project is exempt from further review pursuant to Section 15301, Class 1, existing facilities. Environmental review number 2025-26 will be filed for this project. Additionally, there's no physical impact associated with this project. And with that said, staff is recommending adoption of a resolution approving conditional use permit 2025-08 as conditioned. The applicant is here in the audience, available for any questions, and staff is also available.
Thank you. Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger.
First of all, I want to say that the property is very well taken care of. I drove by there 11:30 on Saturday, and it's very, very nicely taken care of, including the landscaping. There looked like an outside patio area in front. There was no table or chairs, but it looks like it could be used for that. Does that have to be permitted for outside dining?
Yes, that would have to be permitted with planning. It's done with a separate review.
So is that an outdoor patio for dining purposes? I guess I could ask the owner when they come.
Yeah, I believe that's a more appropriate answer for the owner. Question for the owner.
If I can add to that, that outdoor dining facility was a project in collaboration with the city as part of some COVID-era funding through ARPA. However, the application before you tonight for alcohol sales would not include this area. So the business would be able to utilize that space for outdoor dining. However, the request would not, before you tonight, does not include alcohol sales or consumption in that area.
And one more add, Commissioner, we did confirm with the property owner that there is no intention to use that outdoor area for even eating, essentially. So there's no use of it now, but as the case planner mentioned, that could be further explained by the business owner.
Okay. Also, my question to, in the census area, how many other type 47 have we approved?
So for this census area, there are 13 allowed by ABC to be deemed undue concentration, and then there's 4 existing.
Very good. Thank you, almost said, thank you.
Commissioner Scamilla.
Yeah, no, I guess to Commissioner Benjer's point and observation, at least found that this particular site's well-maintained, taken care of. I will probably note for staff, I think one issue we might be having kind of at least in this particular kind of commercial little subdivision corridor might be more related to activity at the 7-Eleven. So I know that there's maybe some issues potentially there that we would want to take a look at, because I don't want the general public to feel that we just kind of issue alcohol licenses all the time without question everywhere. But I don't think this site has an issue, but I think maybe just right down, maybe about 2 parcels over, it might be something we would want to take a look at. I know that we have additional provisions to review off-site sales, so that might be something that we might want to take a chance to take a look at in the future. But on this particular project, I think the answers are there. So thank you for presenting that, staff. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Leo.
I have more of a general question for planning. What is there seems to be an impetus of business, this one as well, to go from just beer and wine to distilled spirits. What is the projected profit that these businesses are going to make, that they go through this process to get a distilled spirits license? It seems to me like it is a process. I mean, obviously it must be lucrative or they wouldn't apply for it. I'm wondering what the markup is, because we have these pockets where there are a lot of them, and then we have 1s and 2s. And so I'm trying to understand, as we lay out longer term plans, and Commissioner Benninger asked how many in the census tract, and how do we kind of navigate this area as revenue producing and not revenue producing? How do you guys look at it when they come in and ask for that type of stuff?
I think that's a great question, and like any other business decision, they look at what the costs and time associated with a request. And a request like this is about $5,000. So seeing as though a lot of businesses are still choosing to move forward with an application for this type of use, it must be lucrative enough to compensate for the initial upfront costs. But the exact delta on what they're looking at with this request would probably be better answered by the applicant.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Ramos.
No questions for staff at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Pham.
No questions for me.
Commissioner Wu.
Commissioner Leo, I know the answer to that.
I'll wait for the applicant.
I have no questions for staff. The public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak on the matter? You can approach the microphone.
Hello, everybody. My name is Germán Núñez. We've been at Costa Azul for 18 years. And to answer that question, it makes it more of a complete restaurant. There is profit in distilled spirits, but other than that, it just makes it a complete restaurant. So if someone wants a distilled spirit, if someone just wants a lemonade, whatever the group may be, everybody says, let's go there. They have it all.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Benninger? Commissioner Scamilla?
Yeah, no, I think I speak on behalf of at least one mother, so my own mother, who is always wanting a Cadillac margarita at this particular site and is unfortunately unable to get her order in. But now I'll let her know that I did one thing for her for Mother's Day.
Commissioner Leo?
There was a question raised about the 7-Eleven, and we tend to ask applicants, let me ask you some basic questions.
Yeah.
How's the homeless? How's the alley behind where they tend to congregate? Police calls, police response time. Is it okay? Is it your business being able to survive and not affected by some of that, or?
The homeless has gotten better in the last couple of years, especially like in the last year and a half. The alley is not enclosed, so they don't really congregate, because it's just like a driveway. So there's really as long as we keep the area clean, usually there's nowhere for anybody to really just stay.
Okay.
So that's
So
why,
it's gotten better, a little better.
yeah, it has.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Ramos.
No questions, just a fan of your establishment. So.
Thanks.
Vice Chair Pham, Commissioner Pham, sorry.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Wu.
Your restaurant don't invite the homeless to camp out there, right?
No,
Okay, they just come, and that's not your responsibility, right?
no. We do our best to keep everything clean.
I have no questions for you, but thank you. We'll let you know if
All right.
there's any questions that come up.
Thank you.
Recording Secretary, have we received any written communication, or is there a member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
Chair, we have not received any public comment. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into a secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon to indicate that you would like to speak. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial *9 and then *6 to unmute yourself. I will wait a few seconds. Chair, we do not have any speakers.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve this matter?
I make a motion that we approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Benninger and a second by Commissioner Escamilla. Secretary, please call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Benninger?
Aye.
Commissioner Scamilla?
Aye.
Commissioner Leo?
Aye.
Commissioner Pham?
Aye.
Commissioner Wu?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ramos?
Aye.
Chair Oliva?
Aye.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
This concludes the public hearing. Moving on to the miscellaneous item in the business calendar. Before we move on to this item, I would like to propose a recess to the commission. Are we open to a recess, or do we just want to continue? Open to a recess? 15 minutes? Cool. Okay, we'll call for a 15-minute recess, and we'll be back at, oh my gosh, I can't do math. I should 6:36. I said that into the microphone. How embarrassing, plus.
Not bad.
And we're back. Thank you so much for the recess. This is the time and place for the general plan consistency finding for the fiscal year 2025-2026 capital improvement program. Before we begin, do any commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item? Seeing none, Public Works Project Manager Haley Gilbert will provide a brief presentation.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. I'm here today. My name is Haley Gilbert. I'm with the Public Works Agency, and I will be presenting the fiscal year 25-26 proposed capital improvement plan for consistency with the general plan. So we wanted to start off by highlighting some recently completed CIP projects. We have King Street Urban Greening. And this project transformed approximately 9,000 square feet of unused public space at the intersection of King Street and 10th Street. The reconstructed area now includes bike and pedestrian pathways, drought-tolerant landscaping, lighting, waste receptacles, seating, interpretive signage, art installations, and a stormwater infiltration system that will capture and infiltrate stormwater runoff from the surrounding neighborhood. The next project we're highlighting is Downtown Santa Ana Flood Reduction Project, which upgraded existing storm drain infrastructure along 3rd Street, installed a subsurface stormwater infiltration system, and redeveloped a city-owned parking lot to include stormwater, best management practices, drought-tolerant landscaping, and interpretive signage. The other project on the bottom left that we're looking at is Bristol and Santa Clara traffic signal modification, which installed a left turn phasing for both north and southbound traffic on Bristol Street at Santa Clara Avenue to improve intersection safety. The Riverview Neighborhood Street Lighting Project installed new streetlight poles, LED lights, underground conduits, wiring, and electrical meter pedestals were installed to improve neighborhood lighting. Flower Street Bike Trail Project. Improvements were made along the Flower Street Bike Trail between Warner Avenue and the railroad crossover south of Dyer Road. This included the installation of a 3-inch asphalt layer, tree root maintenance, pedestrian lighting, and updated signage and striping. These upgrades addressed damages caused by tree roots that had cracked and uplifted the surface. Next are some of our funding sources relied upon for this fiscal year 25-26 CIP. They consist of local funds, which we have gas tax, including SB1 road maintenance and rehabilitation funding, general fund, refuse vehicle impact fee, Measure M local fair share monies, drainage area fees, transportation system improvement area fees, and federal clean water enterprise monies. We also have grant funding, which includes Highway Safety Improvement Program, Active Transportation Program, Measure M2 Competitive Transportation Funding Program, and Community Development Block Grant Program funding. Here's an example of our CIP book one-year budget, which includes all of our projects listed by category. We have all of the category totals and subtotals of each subcategory, and this serves as a table of contents to all of our project worksheets. Here's a sample of our CIP project worksheets, which will have every capital project name and category listed in the top left-hand corner. We have a project description and a project need. We also have a project map with all of the funding sources and the budget that we have budgeted for this fiscal year for this segment. We also have project phase. So this sample shows the construction funding for this proposed project. For the fiscal year 25-26 proposed CIP, we are bringing forward a program of $51 million, $164,551. It is comprised of $43 million of street improvements, $6.9 million of traffic improvements. We have $450,000 for utility, drainage, and lighting. And I wanted to point out that we actually have over $49 million in active water and sewer projects currently in construction. So that's where a lot of their capital funding is currently being invested. And we have $320,000 funded for municipal improvements in this fiscal year CIP. In this slide, we wanted to highlight a few of our projects and show that their consistency with the city's general plan. So for this proposed project, it's for Euclid Street rehab from McFadden to First. The project goal is to enhance equity and safety for all commuters. This is a very high collision corridor, and there is high traffic volume. There has been injuries and fatalities in this location, and our transportation challenge that we're meeting is that nearly 50% of residents in this project area rely on walking or biking per the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool. So some of the project improvements that we are going to be implementing will be Class 2 bike lanes on both sides, ADA compliant infrastructure with ramps and facilities, some safety features added for new traffic signals, high visibility pedestrian crossings, and some landscape medians to enhance our green space. This project, as well as the other two that I'm going to be reviewing, they will involve our mobility general plan goal to cover safety, complete streets, traffic management, and attractive travel ways. The second project that I'm highlighting from our proposed CIP will be for the design phase of Santa Ana grade separation. The goal is to create a safe, modern, sustainable, and multimodal hub for economic activity and mobility. The project need consists around barriers and current traffic disruptions. There is an at-grade crossing that exists, which results in the gate arm downtime of approximately 2.25 hours per day, which creates some barriers within the city. Limited pedestrian and cyclist access. There is currently inadequate infrastructure for safe walking and biking, as well as connectivity issues. There's currently poor access to key areas like the intercity passenger rail, bus transit, and the upcoming Orange County streetcar. So some of the project improvements that we will be designing will be for a multimodal underpass. So it's going to be a separation of rail crossing with a new underpass. It will have enhanced pedestrian access with a new bridge, sidewalks on both sides, and a pedestrian plaza. There will be bicycle infrastructure for Class 4 protected bikeways, as well as lane reduction reduced from 6 to 4 lanes to accommodate those raised medians. Lastly, we have the high visibility marked crosswalk improvements. Our goal with this project is to improve safety, accessibility, and comfort for all road users. There is a current lack of bicycle infrastructure. There are intersection safety concerns. There's bicycle lane conflicts, and pedestrian safety and visibility is currently lacking sufficient visibility, which puts our pedestrians at risk. So some of the project improvements that we are going to be implementing with this project will be protected intersections with Dutch-style intersections with curb refuge islands to separate cyclists from motor vehicle traffic, as well as green colored transition striping, colored striping to highlight the conflict areas between cyclists and vehicles, especially where the bike lanes merge with the turn lanes. And also the high visibility crosswalks, so new continental style crosswalk markings. And it is proposed for 4 different major intersections that were identified in the city. Lastly, we have the synthetic turf Dan Young Soccer Complex. This is our goal to upgrade fields, improve accessibility and durability for community sports. Currently, fields 1 and 3 at the Dan Young Sports Complex still use natural grass, which is considered outdated. The field durability requires frequent maintenance and is less durable compared to the synthetic turf. And due to high usage, the sports complex has a lot of events, and we are needing to provide consistent playing conditions. So this project proposes to remove the field that are existing and purchase and install new synthetic turf, as well as repaint all of the sports lines. So we're going to dive in deeper into the CIP categories, starting with the street improvements at $43 million. There are 3 planning projects that are proposed: pavement management, project development, and right-of-way management that support our operations. Roadway improvements, 16 different projects that we are focusing on for rehabilitation. For our street and bridge improvements, we have 6 projects totaling $8 million. And our local street rehab projects, we have 5 projects totaling $9 million. And they include our alley improvement program, our local street preventive maintenance, and our industrial street repair program, as well as some other rehab work that we'll be doing. For traffic improvements, funded at $6,988,119, we have 4 projects that are under the traffic improvements category for First Street Traffic Safety Corridor, Bristol Street Corridor Regional Traffic Signal Synchronization, the High Visibility Marked Crosswalk Improvements project that we highlighted, as well as the Traffic Signal Equipment Replacement project. For our planning in this category, we have 3 projects. One is going to be multimodal project development. One will be for traffic management plans, and the other for traffic safety project development. And our one safety mobility project under this category this year will be for Broadway multimodal street improvements. The one utility drainage lighting project that we will be highlighting this year that in our one-year CIP is for Grand Avenue Storm Drain for $450,000. And our city and park facility improvements is our synthetic turf Dan Young Soccer Complex project that we highlighted for $320,000. We also have, as part of our CIP, it is a one-year planning document that we use to implement our budgets for our capital projects. We also plan for a 7-year CIP that we're bringing to Planning Commission for consistency with the city's general plan. And currently, we have the 7-year CIP budgeted at $171 million, with street improvements being budgeted at $124 million, traffic improvements, the $8.9 million, the utility drainage and lighting, the $38 million in planned improvements, and for municipal improvements, the $320,000. That concludes our presentation. So if there's any questions, we're more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger.
Yes, thank you for that presentation. When you rehab a street, how many years of life do you expect in that street before you have to bother it again, have to work on it again?
Good evening, and thank you for the question. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Thank you for the question, Commissioner Benninger. It depends on what we're doing with the street.
Typically, if we're doing a major rehab of the street, we're looking at 20 years life. That can be through an overlay or all the way through like a reconstruction where we completely rebuild the street. But if we're doing a slurry seal, the best we're going to get is probably a 7-year kind of hiatus until we need to come back and do something.
We spent a lot of money fixing streets a number of years ago. Mine in particular was rebuilt. It was very nicely done. I haven't seen any serious seals put on, which has helped to prolong the streets. Do you know what time we should see that put on, or a time factor?
So we have a local street preventative maintenance program, which the project you're referring to, at the time we called it Project Restore. We invested $100 million and did all the residential streets in the city. We then created a kind of a routine maintenance program, which is a 10-year cycle. So at any given year, we do 1/10 of the local, or the residential streets. And then, yeah, on a 10-year cycle, we would be returning to the first neighborhood.
One item is close to my heart, and I don't know if it falls into your area or not. I think it would. I don't see anything up there for solar energy, solar panels or things of that nature. Would that fall under this capital improvement?
It can. My team is not the lead for that. We do have a facilities team that does more of the energy type projects. But if there is a project, it could be budgeted through the CIP, or it could be budgeted just through the budget.
Thank you. All set.
Commissioner Escamilla.
All right, thank you, Chair. All right. Thank you for the presentation. I guess we'll start off just in general with some quick observations. Number one, I guess it would just be slide 31. Just trying to get an understanding. So what's the, I guess, train station facing side, and what's the non-train station side on this slide? Are we looking at train station on the left, train station on the right? Or like which train?
Sure, thanks for the question. The train station is on the right side, so north would be to the left.
Okay.
So the intent is that future pedestrian promenade would be something that can be leveraged as part of future development on the Sardic, in the Sardic parking lot, as well as on the opposite side of the tracks on the current county-owned property.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I guess the first thing is just the typo on the promenade. So I guess we'll just correct that for future slides. It's like promenade. And then I guess the other thing then on the improved neighborhood connectivity, I think one of the things I always find odd when we have these kind of multi-level like areas of pedestrian and other forms of kind of connection to other, basically anywhere we have a grade separation, is sometimes some of those stairwells can feel relatively constrained. So anytime you are able to, as part of the project scope, just widen them out, they tend to be a little bit more inviting just from a pedestrian perspective. I think that the kind of narrowness of that little initial kind of plan of having the pedestrian separated from the bike path, I would almost kind of combine them into one sort of bike ped level, right? So that it's maybe, I would still treat a bicycle much more closer to the pedestrian, and I'd rather have them closer to the best pedestrians rather than kind of closer to the cars and vehicles. And I think that's going to be something consistently that if we can ever do that, I'd probably move move the bicycle paths closer to wherever the pedestrians are going to be rather than closer to where where the vehicles will still remain. So I guess just a quick thing. I know this is probably really early on in the design.
Very conceptual, yes.
Yeah.
But good comment. I appreciate the comment.
Yeah, because then I think I saw something where we might also then still include a right-hand turn path where the bike path is going to be at further up towards, I think, oh my gosh, not Santa Fe. What's the next street over right in front of the Santiago. So that Santiago. So I know I saw some preliminary designs that included cars going to the right onto the bike path. And if we go, let's see.
And just a real quick comment on this that you don't really skip from this exhibit is there is proposed a pedestrian bridge that connects both sides. So,
it would still be over as well.
Neighborhood, there would be a pedestrian bridge over to the Sardic site. That way the folks can circulate without actually crossing the street.
Perfect.
So.
Okay, yeah, definitely one of the another nice to haves for sure. And if we can go to slide 35. So this is like, I think, a good kind of image as to why maybe some of the placement of particular bike paths still have issues, right? So right here on the top left, you see basically someone going in and out, I presume. It looks like that Bristol kind of Santa Ana Boulevard intersection. So every time we kind of place the bicycle paths in the way of traffic, it just makes it a lot less likely to be used. So if we go to the Euclid example, you already have kind of a relatively robust median. So anywhere we can kind of lower the median size, make that a little bit smaller, and either place the bicycles further back, a little bit more buffered, or as part of the sidewalk, I think you'll actually get some use out of it, just because I think at this point, we're still struggling with overall bicycle utilization along our major arterials because of how dangerous they still feel. Even if you have that buffered space without any sort of physical barrier, you're going to have a lot less overall usage. I would also say that the landscape median then also provides an opportunity for additional tree planting, so that would incorporate that into the design because it is part of our overall effort to reduce our urban heat island effect. I think even the arterial roads that we have where there's trees in the median landscape have a much nicer, kind of more pedestrian-friendly feel, even if it is only just having the trees in the middle. I know they're a pain to maintain and it's operational cost for sure, but I do think it makes a difference for the overall streetscape. So ideally, it's always planting shade trees on both ends and the median in order to try to get to that canopy cover, especially in and around areas that you want to have to be more walkable. So anytime we do that, I think it's really a cost-effective investment and something that will encourage people to utilize the streets more in a kind of streetscape rather than as a roadway. So just a quick observation there. And I think with that probably has the majority of my comments. Oh, sorry, one other update. I'm wondering if you all have implemented any sort of tracking software with Public Works to make sure that there aren't any sort of long-term conflicts between the projects. I think a classic example is we go in, we repave and redo a neighborhood, but we know that we're going to update some pipes and then we have to go back and then repave again. So I think it's just like monitoring whether or not some of these projects might overlap and conflict with each other. So I'm not sure like how we're tracking that internally because I just don't want to see what I remember seeing on like South Bristol once where it was like very much like, hey, we repaved everything. We went in, took out the water pipe and then had to repave again.
Yeah, I want to apologize. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Jason Gabriel. I'm with our CIP engineering group, and one of my functions is to make sure that we're doing exactly what you're referring to. We have a series of coordination meetings where we work with all the groups that could potentially do a project, our water department, our water and sewer, our traffic department, and we make sure when we can, we look at it holistically. It's not always feasible. Like this year, as Haley demonstrated, our water department got a lot of their funding in active construction projects, so they don't have new funding this year. So there are years where the funding doesn't line up, things like that. But if we can delay one of our projects or advance it, then yes, absolutely, we will do that whenever we can.
All right, perfect. And then as far as like a general road wear, are we seeing that just, so my understanding is there's kind of like different things happening, but that at the base level, we also then have not just increased semi-truck traffic, but just the increased size of vehicles overall are kind of degrading roads a little bit faster than we might have seen historically. Like just overall car size is an issue. Are we seeing that it's really these roadways that have semi-traffic that we need to kind of take a look at kind of what those circulation patterns are? I'm just trying to understand where the road damage is happening, and it might just be the age of the infrastructure as well.
So age definitely is a component. The large vehicles have a exponentially larger impact on roads than passenger cars. But having said that, with a lot of the electric vehicles, they're definitely heavier than your typical passenger car. But even things like OCTA buses, whenever they do alternative fuel and battery, there is a slight trade-off of, yes, they're much heavier, and so they have a larger impact, along with everybody getting Amazon deliveries all the time, all those trucks. Yep. Yeah, they have a large impact on the roadways.
Yeah, because I think that's just, at least for me, like part of the public communication strategy is just like letting people know, look, there is a cost to these various choices that we're making, and part of what we're seeing is a little bit more on the roadway repair and damage, and just to be able to convey that like we are repairing, we are funding this to the best of our ability, but that there are outside impacts, that are impacting the roadway conditions. It's like, hey, if you get a bigger car, you're part of this effort. And then also all the Amazon deliveries and everything else. I think it'd be good to let people know that, because I don't think a lot of folks realize the logarithmic impact of the larger vehicles.
Correct.
Commissioner Leo.
Could you go back to the funding slide? I don't remember if it was 5 or 6. Right? So when you look at the funding sources, right? You know what's not up there as a resident of Santa Ana? Measure X. Do we break out Measure X? Do we break out funding for Measure X because the residents
Commissioner
are
Leo,
going to be asked?
I want to say this is because it's a different year. It's 25, 26.
No, but Measure X is ongoing. It's in the general fund. So the question is, when the voters approved Measure X, reference public safety, roads and ways, blah, 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 blah. But there is no breakout for Measure X.
So let me clarify, general fund that's listed there is the Measure X.
But hear me out.
Okay?
There's a general fund, and the Measure X was added onto the existing general fund. The voter said, okay, I'll pay for this, but you, city, agreed to do X, Y, and Z. We can't figure out, no one can figure out where did Measure X go? You say it went in the general fund. I agree, I know that's where it goes. But it doesn't say, I did X, and therefore I got Y. I paid these taxes, I got Y. If I go to Measure M2, I am told what's going to be built. They build it with that money, and then they turn around and tell us that they built it. So what I'm trying to say is from the standpoint of, if the taxes comes up, tax goes due 2029, I think it is. If we can't tell the voters that we spent the tax money appropriately, we won't get additional money in the general fund. Tax goes away. What I'm saying is, as you go through your presentations, if there's any way, working with Catherine and everybody else, to break out what Measure X funded, it's easier, because when you go to neighborhood associations, and Carl can tell you, and Alan can tell you, they would like to know what happened to the money. Because people are like, we're paying the highest sales tax in the county.
Definitely. So one thing I wanted to highlight is that in previous CIPs, traditionally, general fund was not a very significant funding source, or this general funds were not allocated towards a lot of capital projects. So this year we have $3.5 million, and you're correct that that is a standing general fund item as a result of Measure X. Previously, our CIP did not have guaranteed general funding year to year. So
So relabel it, do whatever you gotta do, because as you go out into the public and Commonwealth asks you, or the church or somebody asks you what we're spending the money on, well, this is exactly what you gave us the money, we hired this many cops, we did X, Y, and Z, and we did this many roads. Because it's easier when you come back to the public and say, guess what, I need to renew it, or I'd like X, and they'll be, oh, I know what you did, because I know what you're spending the money on. The question is how we portray it to the public. Because, man, you work for the supervisor on OCTA, right? Measure M2, they lay it out. They say when they started, when they finished, what it looks like. I mean, so if you guys do that, first of all, no one will complain. And second of all, more importantly, the public will know, oh, this is what the money was spent on. That was my question, because I noticed that we have general fund, but I didn't see Measure X. But if it's in there, and what percent, you guys, well, Catherine can tell you what percentage it is of the budget.
Yeah, and that's a fair comment. And as Haley mentioned, historically, we actually didn't have any general fund in the CIP. So the monies that you see here, the what is it, $3.5 million, is specific earmarks given to us by Measure X on a yearly basis. We can change the, that's, yes, I hear your message.
All I'm asking is that, because when you tell me, as a resident, because all of us, many of us are residents, and you say, I've got $3.5 million from the extra tax you paid, and I widened Grand, or I repaved Grand, people would be like, oh, good. I invested in my city. It didn't go to X, Y, and Z, it just went to what the initiative said, because we're all going to be facing the same issue in about 5 years. So.
Absolutely. And I guess just to close the loop on that, the money that we get for Measure X primarily goes to alley improvements, which has historically been pretty much unfunded, and then just pavement work on streets.
You know how happy residents are when they get their alley paved? It's like more important than paving the regular street.
We love to do that because, yeah, we know
Right,
that.
right, because it's for them. But I'm just saying is that, oh, I paid the extra taxes when I went to the grocery store and this is where it went.
Absolutely.
Thank you though for the presentation.
Vice Chair Ramos.
Thank you. I wanted to just respond to that super quickly. I think this might make you happy, Commissioner Leo, but I noticed that the bus shelters on 17 and Grand actually, I think, have information on like the fact of that there's like work happening and that it's being paid with your Measure X dollars. So maybe they're not existing in your ward yet, but I've seen them on 17.
Look, I just remember sitting on the commission itself and trying to piecemeal it out. Like, I know that some of the Measure X money's been spent on refixing bathrooms at the parks, right? And lighting. Well, once you tell people this is where your money's going, they'll be like, oh, okay, because the city's like their house. And if you fix this or you fix that, then with the money I gave you, okay, I feel better about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think those like, at least those are the ones that I've seen because I drive down 17 often. So it's when you're right in front of the Tacos El Gavilan. The bus shelter there had like just promotions saying, hey, these are, I think the exact words were like, your Measure X dollars at work. And then I had pictures of like where some of that work has taken place. So I want to highlight that. I think that's great and addresses what Commissioner Leo has said. And I don't know where they exist throughout the city, but that's where I've seen them and would encourage maybe having them throughout the city. But then aside from that, I had just other questions. So one on the improvements that are going to be made to roads. I don't know if we can go back to that slide. And maybe I missed it. It might have been stated, but what wards and neighborhoods are these improvements coming to?
We can provide that information, but the way that we determine our road improvements is through the pavement. We do a pavement management program every 3 years, and that will determine citywide all of our pavement condition index scoring as well as our needs, depending on our available funding and the various treatment types. So I can provide a list of all of these projects. I'm mapping them in GIS currently, and all of the projects, it will show the ward that they're a part of, because currently I don't have all of it's citywide that the projects are going to be done. But we do our best to make sure that we are going by the city's PMP, the pavement management plan, and all the priorities that we need to address.
And in the final version of the CIP that goes to the city council as part of the budget adoption, there is an exhibit in there that shows all of the projects mapped out citywide with the council wards. So that information is a little more effective in seeing that. We can make a note in the future when we come to Planning Commission that we have that exhibit available as part of the presentation, so you can see it, but also we can share that information with the commission.
Thank you, that'd be great. And again, kind of just going to what Commissioner Leo was saying, I think if that's also made easily available and accessible online, so that like some of the council members can point to it. I know several of them send out newsletters, and so does the mayor, so that folks can see exactly what's coming and when.
Right, so as part of our capital project, yes, there's outreach, but ultimately, as part of the budget adoption, a lot of that gets included on the city's website, so it is available there. But it is kind of up until this point, it's kind of a living document. There's desires and, priorities that shift and funding pots of money. So we have the latest, greatest version that we have here, which is probably going to be what's adopted by council, but it does change through the process, so.
Thank you. And then on the roadway improvements, I have another question. So I don't know what the technical term is, but I know when we were considering, or when the council was also considering the related Bristol project, some of the residents that live off MacArthur, where a lot of the big trucks would be going, the construction trucks, asked for the road, when it was repaved, I think it was going to be repaved, to include like some shock absorbing, or to be repaved in a way where like it would be able to absorb a lot of the weight from those trucks, so that like their quality of life wouldn't be reduced. So I don't know what the term for that is, but is that something that's being considered when we're repaving roads that are adjacent to some of our residential neighborhoods?
So the primary focus is on the durability of the pavement. When you're talking about the ability of the road to kind of absorb kind of large vehicles and maybe bouncing, I guess that could, some people feel that as vibration in their homes. That's usually the reason we go with asphalt versus concrete. That's one of the big reasons, is that vibration transfer. It's not a rigid pavement, it's a flexible pavement, asphalt is. So as far as the ability to provide some kind of flexibility, we do use recycled tires in the asphalt. So there is a rubber component. It doesn't provide too much, but at the end of the day, there's not a lot you can do with an asphalt pavement section. I think the biggest thing that you want to focus on is how smooth the pavement is. If it's got a lot of undulation, then that's where you get a lot of the vehicles bouncing around. But if it's nice and smooth, which is a component of our construction, then you get less of that.
Okay, thank you. So I'm hearing that the way you're doing it in the best way you could to ensure that quality of life is preserved and also improved as much as possible.
Yes.
Thank you. So I asked because I live off Civic Center, and every time the bus passes, the garbage truck, it's like a little earthquake for me. So I want to make sure that as much as possible, other folks aren't experiencing that.
Understood, thank you.
Thank you. And then I think my last set of questions for now are just on the funding. So how much of the funding for the capital improvement plan is federal funding?
That's a good question.
It's okay if you give me like a rough percentage. And my reason for asking is I'm just wondering if there's any concerns that with this current administration, we might not receive all of the expected funding and that some of the projects within the plan might be delayed, or like if there's been any thought to that.
Highway Bridge 2.
Just the highway bridge.
5 and 8. It looks like it's under $1 million, so it's not a substantial component of the CIP.
Okay, so any reductions in federal funding shouldn't greatly affect the plan or any of the work that's proposed as of now?
So that grade separation project that we referenced, that does have, the money that's budgeted is for a component of the design, but when we get further in, we were awarded a $25 million raise grant. That's federal. So it can have an impact on previously funded phases as well that aren't reflected here in the current next year's CIP.
So those 25 million have already been received or can still be like rescinded?
It's been awarded from the federal government. We received confirmation of receiving that grant. It was in the current fiscal year, so that could be affected, yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And those are all the questions I have for staff at this time.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pham.
Thank you, Chair. The general question about the budget, the CIP budget, does that include or does it involve soft costs in terms of the forward planning that the city staff spent the time on, like the cost of the city staff's effort, maybe consultants to do the design work? Is that included in the budget, or is it just hard construction?
It is included in the budget. It's part of the CIP.
And do we typically, is a lot of the design work through a consultant, or is it within the city?
It depends on the project. We do have a robust team of internal staff that does a lot of like the pavement rehabilitation type projects. They implement the project from beginning through advertising the project, then our construction team takes over. But on the more complicated projects, we will use consultants.
And our staff, are we competitive in terms of the fee? I guess my general question is it more cost effective for city staff to do this design and construction work, or is it more cost effective for a third-party bid process?
I mean, I'm partial, so internal staff, absolutely. No, I think from a price perspective, yes, our internal staff is more cost competitive. We develop plans that are more comprehensive than what I've typically seen in the industry that a consultant will prepare for the type of work that we do internally. And having our staff be part of the city and going out and actually seeing it versus consultants that might not be in the city and don't see the project site as much, I think we get a better product from our staff as well.
And then moving on to street improvement, now is more anecdotal. I saw a lot of reference to kind of improvements for mobility for bike lanes. Now, I drive through Hazard between First and Euclid a lot, and these raised protections, curb protections, have we have any kind of data on whether or not they cause more accidents? Because I've seen a couple of drivers, because they're not used to making that turn, and then they're not aware because it's such a low profile curb, that I've seen a couple cars kind of just jump that protection curb. And I'm not sure if there's any kind of data on, obviously it's protecting the cyclist, but whether or not that's causing additional kind of collisions.
Are you referring to the roundabouts or bulb out, like where we?
The raised bicycle lane protection.
So it's the buffer?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Because they crowd the street quite a bit, especially on Hazard where it's only, I think, 4 lanes. But then the bike lanes really took up 1 lane on each side. So then, force of habit, people are so used to making that wide turn.
Sure.
And eventually they just kind of.
I don't have specific data on that. We can have our traffic team provide that to you, though.
Or I think it's just something worth observing.
Sure.
Just because it's a big street, but it's also a residential street, and I just feel like obviously I'm pro protecting the cyclist, but sometimes I think that these raised curves, they do take up quite a bit of a very kind of condensed road, and so I think that's a balancing.
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act. I mean, again, I'm not from our traffic group, but I would, if I was to pinch hit for them, I think they'd say that we'd rather have cars hitting the concrete than having, pedestrians or cyclists in the line of fire. So that's kind of the idea, is to separate them so that there is that safe component.
And then for along street improvement, along corridors that kind of run along the border of the cities, right? Do we have kind of cross-city communications? Because I know Garden Grove on Harvard Boulevard have their own street improvement plan for Harvard Boulevard, and it would just look better for our city if it, on the Santa Ana side, it's just as well maintained, because it's such a stark contrast. In certain areas of the city, you kind of cross into another city, the street seems to be more maintained, and then when you cross over to our city, it's not very well maintained. And so I wonder if there's any cross-city kind of noticing or collaboration where if they start working on their end of the corridor, we somehow kind of project to improve our end as well, to make sure there's a consistency and visual.
Sure. If you look at the city limit of Santa Ana and our adjacent cities, and in a lot of cases, it splits a lot of different streets in really unusual ways. I mean, it's how everything was developed and roads were widened and whatnot. Typically, either we or our adjacent partners would work together. I mean, basically, it's based on the square footage of space within that roadway. We would work with them to, whoever has the most area typically would be the lead, and we would work together to fund that. But yeah, we do not avoid that type of partnership with our neighbors. We would definitely actively seek those out. So we have a few that we're working on right now.
And then last
last question. A lot for the street maintenance, now, because I drive up Harbor, so I'll speak mainly Harbor. There's a lot of mature trees within the medians that the roots are starting to kind of break up the asphalt on both sides. And, is this a kind of a continued cost to the city where we kind of, once it cracks enough, we kind of repair it, but then the root cause is constant, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of things with raised medians that drive kind of how we would approach them over time. If you notice, a lot of the newer medians have a very tall curb. That allows us to overlay the street a couple of times and still have that curb. If you've been down on like South Fairview, where it looks like there's a curb, but it's basically flat, that's historically like they put in a shorter curb and they've overlaid it and ultimately lost it. That's why we went to the taller. Trees are the same thing. As they mature, they're big, they're beautiful, they're wonderful. We want to keep them there as long as we can. If they do start lifting the pavement, we would expose the roots. We have an arborist that would look at that and determine, is it safe to keep the tree and shave those roots or prune those roots and then repave, and then it's kind of this ongoing maintenance cycle. Ultimately, at some point, worst case is the tree might need to be removed if the roots are causing so much damage, and removing those roots would cause the tree to not be viable anymore.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Wu.
Commissioner Leo and Ramos, you'd be happy to know that on the trained signs on 17th and Grant, there's a sign to call for suicide prevention. It's posted in big letters to call this number for suicide prevention. So it's good that we prevent suicide there on 17th and Grant. My question to you is, looking at your projects completed, which is very good, and thank you. We needed those things, the marking, the pathways, and the park improvements, and a lot of the new swimming pool and buildings. It's great. Where do we go from here in terms of capital improvement in the next 10 years? Is our streets going to be any safer? Asphalt does not do that. So that's traffic, and this is not part of the traffic budget. I understand that. But I'm just saying, what else can we do? We can't turn our city into Irvine. We're a built-up city. But we have a lot of commercial areas that could use improvement, and industrial areas that may make it more attractive for, it to be leased out, and, office buildings and all that. I don't know if those are all in the capital improvement, but to look at our whole city as a whole, where do we go up as a built-up city? Are we going residential? Are we going whatever? What does the older city do from here?
So our pavement needs are great. So that's going to be an ongoing, continuous component of our city. It's a job that's never done. Once you're done, you're starting over again. What I can say on that, on just specifically the pavement side, is we've never been healthier as far as the funding and our approach. Historically, we've always had big structural issues with certain types of roads. I'll give you an example. Industrial streets, most of my career, I've been here 26 years, most of my career, we barely touched them because we didn't have a specific funding source for them. They're very cost intensive because they have a ton of trucks. When our director worked on the latest refuse contract, we introduced a vehicle impact fee because trash trucks are one of our biggest contributors to deterioration in pavement, and that money goes specifically to industrial street improvements every year. As I mentioned to Commissioner Benninger, for the residential streets, we had a program where we did all the residential streets within like 5 years. And then now we have a continuing funding source that funds that routine maintenance.
And you've been improving the lighting, like as in the Riverview.
So, yeah, and so, you know, I think it's just kind of how we evolve as a city. We purchased the Southern California Edison streetlights, and so now we're the deciders of how that's maintained and where there's low light levels and, you know, are there missing lights in certain areas?
So does that mean we're going to have less blackouts?
Less blackouts? Well, we don't control the power. We control the lights themselves. So unfortunately, we can't control Edison and whether they
There
do
seemed to
rolling
also, one neighborhood, Floral Park, have taken to putting reflectors before you get to a stop sign and little tapes along the way. So, and I just noticed that the other day and say, oh, this is kind of nice. It's kind of warning you that you're getting to a stop sign and as you reflect it. So there are low cost things in neighborhood areas that maybe we could do to, you know, to make a street that may be part of the capital improvement, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
And to get into some other areas, storm drain infrastructure is a big thing that we're constantly looking. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that doesn't have a lot of funding programs. In our construction group, we have our clean water team, and the lead there has been focused on grants that both look at kind of from a water quality, like filtration, infiltration type improvements, BMPs for NPDES, leveraging that with storm drain to facilitate some of our larger storm drains. So there's a lot of needs in the city that have historically not been met. And so I think that's the challenge with Public Works is we continue to find ways to leverage local resources or find, you know, whether it's regional, state, and sometimes federal grants that fund these things that we can do that historically have not been a benefit to the city and improve that infrastructure.
Planned communities are Irvine. You have lots of walk paths. Like on a Sunday, you could see lots of people walking or bicycling. Our people do it too, but they walk in neighborhood that's a block. And you walk a dog every morning, you see them, okay? And I guess, is there any capital improvement for doggy poo-poo stations or? I don't know. I'm
That's a
just,
good question. That's a good question.
I'm not being cynical or snarly about it. I don't know if that's kind of there's a neat European vision of how you make it more walkable and friendly to the hikers and the joggers and the dog walkers. Yeah.
Sure. It's definitely something we can look into.
Okay, great. See, what did I want to look into? I guess that's it. You know, I was just wondering about the future of our city and where we're going with capital improvement. Hopefully you have the funding. Our mayor is going to try to be nice so that we could get it, keep our funding.
The improvements that you showed us tonight, they're all about safety, so thank you so much. I know it's like families and kids that walk these areas, so thank you for sharing these with us. I wanted to go to the street improvement slide, and I just want to make sure that there's some sort of schedule for all the roadway improvements and that they're not all going to be happening at the same time or two back-to-back, just so that we're not in like a gridlock situation.
Understood. A lot of these are the kind of the design money only. So for this next year, we'd be designing it. Some of it is design and construction. So we are staggering these projects as much as we can. We understand it's kind of the double-edged sword of Public Works. You know, we want to maintain everything. We want to make sure that the community has all of the infrastructure at its highest and best. But at the same time, we can't do it all at once, and we can't inconvenience the community too much. So we are definitely looking at how we can accomplish everything we want to accomplish while at the same time minimizing the impact.
Perfect, and that's my only question. Does anybody else have any questions? Commissioner Benninger, we'll go in order again.
I just noticed there's no sidewalk improvements or updates. Does your department cover sidewalks?
We do. I know that our maintenance team also has some sidewalk money, but a lot of these projects, as part of their scope, include sidewalk improvements. So even though we're doing pavement, a lot of times we will do curb ramps, we'll replace driveways that are damaged, we'll replace damaged sidewalk, in some cases missing sidewalk. And if the curb and gutter is holding water, we'll look to replace that as well.
Because I live just up in Bear Street, and there's a lot of tree lifting of the sidewalks down Bear Street. I guess we could report that as a separate issue that you guys could look at?
Yes, in some cases, if you consistently have the same tree that was planted at the same time, ultimately, you're probably going to have a whole block at least of that type of issue, and then it becomes a project in and of itself. So we appreciate the community being kind of an extra set of eyes and ears, letting us know using our app that there's always more to be done. No matter how much we are focused on what we are doing, there's always something we miss, and we appreciate the community letting us know that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, two things. So the first one, Commissioner Leo over here reminded me that I do oversee or review OCTA items from time to time, on a weekly basis. There was one project that was formerly in Measure M2 under the category of Project R, which was the 17th Street grade separation project. It seems to have stalled out back in about 2014 or so, and there hasn't really been any movement. But now that we have this other grade separation that's occurring here along Santa Ana Boulevard, I'm wondering if there has been any sort of preliminary, reaching out to OCTA staff or just to see whether or not I'm not sure how they would transfer or change or modify, their existing kind of project scope. But this being another grade separation project within the same city, maybe impacting the exact same traffic patterns. I don't know if that would then be another additional supplemental source of funding. So just flagging that for you all. Obviously, Jason, you were here, I think, 27 years. Yeah, so you would have been definitely here. So that's number one. And then number two, when everyone here was talking about kind of the impacts from trees to sidewalks and kind of breaking up the sidewalk over time, I think there's a really good example on Cedar over, also call it East Side, in the East Side neighborhood in Cedar, that has pretty much really these nicely kind of fully grown oak cedar type trees. Maybe it is a cedar tree. I don't think it is, but I'm not quite sure what species. But they're relatively large trees that have had very little impact to the surrounding sidewalk. And these were probably installed in the 1940s, 1950s, and have been able to kind of grow with the neighborhood over time. But I don't know why this particular track has kind of stayed intact and not had damage. So I don't know if it was a combination of species, the amount of cement that was installed, but it just might be a pretty good standard. So if we're concerned about uplift over time, this is a tree that's now probably anywhere between 50 to 70 years old. And then up and down the street, they're perfectly level sidewalks. I'm not sure what exactly we did right there, but that we might want to implement as a potential learning example.
Great comment. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Wu?
Oh,
Yeah, I just had a.
Commissioner Leo.
So there's a couple things that exist. One exists, I think, actually in the ordinance, is a working group on traffic between the city of Orange and the city of Santa Ana. I think it is in Orange. I don't know if the committees have met in the last 5 or 6 years, but as you know, we approved a massive project down Bristol related. There'll be another project that's going to come to us. We may approve it. But some type of working relationship on traffic around South Coast Plaza and the south end of town may be in order. Just given the magnitude of what we're doing on our side, what Costa Mesas continue to do on their side in that Orange district, just because of the impacts on both Costa Mesa residents and Santa Ana residents and on your budget, depending on who's gonna pay to pave those roads and the amount of traffic that's gonna go. I think that at some point, we need to figure out working relationships with the cities that we abut. Just because if we do, like, Main Place Mall is gonna go through its own growth, Orange is gonna get the full impact of that. And what they're doing at Chalk is impacting us. So how we work together with our neighbors and how we pursue funding from my good friend Manning here at OCTA, how we do that, I think is something we need to start to think about how we do it. Just because you look at the sheer size of the growth at the south end of town, especially on Sunflower, as you go even further down towards Maine, and then when you think about what we're doing up at the north end, just the growth itself of traffic. We have to figure out how we not only answer the residents, but how we keep the roads paved and how they're nice. And, you know, you can tell the difference between, I don't know what South Coast Plaza did, but as soon as you're in that area, the Costa Mesa side's paved, the Santa Ana side's got plenty of work to do. But now we're gonna have development, so, or repave it once the trucks are ruining the roads. But it's something we need to think about how we do it as we do our developments and how we can assist Public Works in making sure that the traffic stuff and the roads are paved appropriately and there's enough funding.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Ramos, any comments?
No additional questions right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Pham? Commissioner Wu?
I remember what I forgot. I got a call from the Asian American Senior Center from Jennifer Wong, the president, and she was upset. And she was upset because she drove by Dirt and Bush, where there's supposed to be a memorial to early Chinese immigrant, the size of from 4 to 6 feet, 2 rocks on the side of it. But instead, found this, a rock a little bigger than this, with mostly the sign filling that up. So that's not a memorial of any distinction. You know, it's like, you know, again, we're being erased and insulted as a community, you know, with this little memorial to the early Chinese immigrants that face the Chinese Exclusion Act, where immigrants are being also today targeted for removal. I hope in finding out what happened, you know, because it's supposed to be 4 to 6 feet high, the plaque there where you can see it, the plaque is almost the same size as the rock is on it, you know, and I think it's just a leftover boulder that was there before the storm drain. This project dragged on for 3 years since we had the apology because of the storm drain project. And they keep telling me, you know, okay, set up a meeting to have the grand opening. Oh, we can't have the grand opening because we're still in the process of the storm drain. So she was yelling at me like, did you approve that? I said, well, no, I saw it. I told, you know, some council people about it and, you know, our supervisor. So, but I have no power, you know. So I bring it to your attention that we're looking for a more worthy memorial to the early Chinese immigrants. It's not to mark the burning of Chinatown where we were burnt down. That would be another insult. It's a memorial to those that had to face that burning, okay, from the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve this matter?
Yep, I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Escamilla and a second from Commissioner Benninger. Secretary, please call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Benninger?
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Aye.
Commissioner Leo?
Aye.
Commissioner Pham?
Aye.
Commissioner Wu?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ramos?
Aye.
Chair Oliva?
Aye.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
That concludes the business calendar. Moving on to staff closing comments.
Thank you, Chair Oliva. One comment from staff today. The regularly scheduled May 26th Planning Commission meeting will be canceled in observance of Memorial Day. So I wish everyone a happy Memorial Day, and that meeting is going to be rescheduled for the following day, May 27th. And that's going to be at 5:30 here at Council Chamber. Thanks.
You said May 27th.
Sorry, yes, May 27th at 5:30 here in the council chamber.
Thank you. Does the commission have any closing comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger.
Yes. One question that I do have is, what happens to projects after we approve them? I noticed that in my area, the Wendy's that was supposed to go in where the chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken was, I see no movement there. The one that really bothers me is that we have where the Sizzler was, and I think Olive Garden was, not Olive, but it's Olive Duration. But that's supposed to be a unique restaurant, and that's been over 2 years since we've approved that. So just out of curiosity, what happens, especially with the restaurants, once we make approvals for them to go in, how long it takes them then to proceed?
Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. That could be due to a number of reasons. Once the Planning Commission approves an item, certain types of applications have to go before the City Council. Others do not. The projects that do not can then submit their applications to the Building Division to start the plan check process if they're proposing any tenant improvements. And the projects that don't require tenant improvements are free to exercise any of the permits that are granted by this commission after the commission hearing. Some of the projects that you may see after receiving approval just don't come to fruition. So those are the kind of projects that die on the vine that you may see here, but you don't see out in the community. And I can't speak to the exact projects that you're mentioning, but we can definitely look into them to see what happened with those. But that is kind of part of business, right? You have an idea, you move forward with it, and sometimes there isn't a product market fit that allows you to move forward with your business. So then you're forced to sometimes close down before you open.
Does our approval have a time limit? If someone comes, presents a plan here, what's the time limit on it?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, for an item such as like a conditional use permit, the applicant would have up to 2 years to exercise the use that was granted by this body.
Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, no comments. Thank you, staff, for a relatively quick evening.
Commissioner Leo.
On Harbor, around Lilac, we did a really good job of kind of slowing down the proliferation of taco stands everywhere in the city. They just moved across the street into Fountain Valley, technically. There's 4 in a row right around Lilac. They're up every night. And then there's a gathering of homeless, which I assume have just migrated from Santa Ana to technically to Fountain Valley because Santa Ana has become not as hospitable as it used to be for the homeless folks. How do you communicate to other cities? I mean, I assume these taco stands move from side of the street. Wherever they're gonna make money, they move. So I don't know how we deal with that, because it's technically, I think it's technically Fountain Valley, but I'm assuming Santa Ana residents use it. I mean, and we have plenty of taco trucks, and I know we're working on other projects that will make it better. I'm just wondering how we work with our neighbors in dealing with some of the things that we've done a good job of kind of regulating.
Thank you, Commissioner. Our Code Enforcement Manager, Yvette Portugal, is here and can take that question.
Good evening, everybody. We are very aware of the taco stands that are, unfortunately, they are in Fountain Valley. If they were in Santa Ana, we would have already addressed them. We have reached out to the city of Fountain Valley multiple times to see if they're willing to even partner up with us in Orange County Health Department to be able to tackle this. At this time, they're not as interested in doing that. As we work our vendor task forces, we do pass by, but we can deter them. Unfortunately, they are in Fountain Valley, but anything on our side, we are addressing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Chair Ramos.
Yes, first I have a question that I don't expect to be answered today, but maybe we can get some sort of update in the near future. So as I was looking I think I was looking online on social media, and there were just questions about One Broadway Plaza and like just kind of what's happening there, if anything at all. So just kind of was reminded of it right now when Commissioner Benninger was asking, what happens to some of these projects? How long do permits stand? So if at some point we could get like a general update on just what's happening at that site, and if at any point we're going to see it maybe freed up for something else. I'd appreciate that. And then also want to just thank you for the work and wish good luck to any staff, commissioners, and members of the public that are running the 5 and 10K this Saturday. I know we have some here today, so good luck. I'm sorry? Did I get rained? Oh, I did get, so Commissioner Ugaso, I got rained on at the half marathon? Yes, a little bit, but it was good. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Ramos. We'll be sure to provide an update on that project at our next scheduled hearing.
Commissioner Pham.
No general comments are made. Thank you for the presentation. A quick announcement. The reason why I was off for 2 meetings, we welcomed a new baby home. First meeting, I thought it was appropriate that I missed because she was new. Second meeting, I slept through the 5:30 alarm. And then as a text Nubia, I'm sorry, I forgot there was a meeting today. But from now on, I'm on top of it.
Commissioner Wu.
What was I going to say? Oh, the May 27 meeting is on a Tuesday. Will the meeting be here or in the side room? Will there be a council meeting? I try to look on the calendar. They don't go that far.
The meeting will be scheduled in this room, council chamber.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have a quick question. So Chair won't be here that meeting. And I now have work travel, so I'm not sure if I'll be available to join via hotel or if I'll be on a flight.
Yeah, I will also be unable to make that Tuesday.
We can communicate after this meeting to make sure we have the sufficient number of commissioners present. If not, then we can look at the calendar to see if that meeting would have to be rescheduled to another date.
I think I would be done with most of my Memorial Day events by then. I'm counting on it, unless another city come up with one where they need us.
Thank you. We'll be sure to reach out just to make sure we have enough commissioners for that hearing. If not, we'll look for other dates. Thank you.
And I don't have any comments aside from thank you, staff, for the presentations and for the CIP presentation. As always, thank you for keeping us informed. The next regular meeting, with that, this meeting is adjourned. The next regular meeting technically will be May 27th at 5:30, but we'll hear back from staff. Thank you so much.